So there you go, the Tour de France is done and dusted, and it's time to take a look back at some of those amazing stories throughout the Tour de France. And first up, we've got to start with one of, in my opinion, one of the greatest sporting comebacks ever. We're talking a seismic comeback. The likes of Liverpool at the Champions League final, being 3-0 down to AC Milan, bringing it back to 3-3 and taking victory on penalties. We're talking Manchester United versus Bayern Munich Champions League final. 1-0 down with seconds to go. Man United somehow managed to score 2 goals to take victory. Muhammad Ali beating George Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle. Or what about Tom Brady's New England Patriots at the Super Bowl, beating the Atlanta Falcons after being 25-0 down. One of the greatest comebacks. But this, in my opinion, the greatest comeback ever. Been written off. There's no two ways about it. He'd been written off by the press, by me, by pretty much everyone in cycling. But not his team, not his support system, more importantly, not by the man himself. Mark Cavendish did what we never expected him to do. 2 weeks prior to the Tour de France, he wasn't going to the Tour de France. It was always going to be Sam Bennett's place. Sam Bennett was the on-form sprinter at Deceuninck Quick-Step, the guy who was going to be taking victory, the guy who was going to be winning that green jersey. But on the Tuesday prior to the Grand Depart, Sam Bennett tweeted out saying that he wouldn't be taking part in the Tour de France. It was pulling himself out of the Tour de France due to a knee injury, which meant that Mark Cavendish could slip into that team. And after a couple of victories at the Tour of Turkey this year, he was, well, let's not say he was going in as favourite, but he was certainly more than capable and in decent enough form to be able to compete for the victories. But realistically, with the likes of Sagan, Caleb Ewan coming in with some amazing form, Sonny Colbrelli, you had the likes of Jasper Philipsen, there was a plethora of riders that you would put ahead of Mark Cavendish in those sprints. But what Mark Cavendish did over the forthcoming 3 weeks was nothing short of amazing. Let's take a look how he did it. Mark Cavendish's Tour success started with a sprint stage that he wasn't even really involved in. Stage 3 of the Tour de France saw so many riders go down, but we're not going to concentrate on those GC contenders. It's solely those sprinters we are looking at. And this moment right here would change the face of the sprints for the next 3 weeks. Caleb Ewan coming down after his, well, let's call it how it was, his own mistake, taking down Peter Sagan and allowing Alpecin Fenix to get that victory. Caleb Ewan would be out of the Tour de France and Peter Sagan wouldn't really recover properly from his injuries in that crash. And in Caleb Ewan retiring from the Tour de France, it meant the sprinters all had a fair opportunity to take victory over the next 3 weeks. And it wouldn't take long for Cav to get his first victory. The following day, in fact, one rider, Brent Van Meer, was out on the front, looked like he was going to stay away. He was getting closed down by the sprinting pack, and he was only caught with around 200 metres to go, but it was Alpecin Fenix who took up the sprint lead train, and Cav did what he did best, found the wheels that he needed to follow, accelerated with 150, 100 metres to go, and that was enough to take his first victory. And that right there would shock fans, pundits, teams, everyone. Mark Cavendish is back. And that victory also put Mark Cavendish in that green jersey, a jersey he had not worn for a very long time. Alright, so Cav got one sprint victory, more than enough, more than probably anyone expected from him. Normal service will be resumed and other sprinters will be taking victory. Nasser Bouhanni, Wout van Aert might be up there, Peter Sagan will be up there, the team of Alpecin Fenix, Cees Bol, Sonny Colbrelli, they were all up there and all capable of winning sprints. But after the individual time trial came sprint number 2 and victory number 2 for Mark Cavendish in the green jersey, replicating that famous victory stance that he held as he crossed the line. What an amazing performance, what an amazing sprint. A few people said he should have been DQ'd for this move across the face of the Alpecin Fenix riders. I tend to agree just a little bit. But stage 6 in the bag, Mark Cavendish extended his lead in the green jersey and took himself just that little bit closer to that record that he wouldn't talk about. And after a few days away from the flat sprint finishes, stage 10 allowed Cavendish to take a step closer to that green jersey, a step closer to that momentous target of 34 stage victories from Eddy Merckx. And his team, well, if you ever want to learn how to lead out a sprinter, then watch stage 10. It was textbook speed, textbook delivery. Mark Cavendish hid all day and really didn't put much of an effort in until 100 meters to go. And when he did, no one could catch him. He was aero, he was fast, he was green, he was mean. And you can almost see his todger there, look. Go on, boy. Is it time to talk about it yet, Cav?
No.
Anyway, Cav would equal the record on stage 13 after a very, very messy sprint. It wasn't the lead out he wanted, it wasn't the lead out he expected, and there were some riders that we don't often see in sprints there. Look at that movie star rider. I hadn't a clue who that is because I never see him sprinting. But Mark Cavendish equalled the record by out-sprinting Alpecin-Fenix rider and his teammate on the left-hand side of him. Such was the strength of this Deceuninck Quick-Step team. Had Mark Cavendish not been in it, there's a good chance that the likes of Ballerini and Morkov could have had a couple of victories between themselves, the way they were sprinting. And as the riders rolled in to Paris for stage 21 of the Tour de France, it was almost written in the stars that Mark Cavendish would take another Champs-Élysées victory with that green jersey on, extending his tally of stage victories to 35, one beyond Eddy Merckx. And I'll be honest, I don't think Eddy Merckx is going to make a comeback to try and equal that record. I think he will allow Cav to have it. But as we saw on the Champs-Élysées, it wasn't to be. Wout van Aert protecting his Belgian brethren, his idol, his deity, the man all Belgians look up to. Merckx will now sit on 34 victories alongside Mark Cavendish, thanks to Wout van Aert. But that for me has to be the story of this year's Tour de France. Now there's obviously loads of subplots going on within the Tour de France. They're all superseded by that general classification hunt, by who is taking home that yellow jersey. But this year, it was pretty much sewn up before the end of the first week. So we had to try and get our entertainment elsewhere, and we found it in Mark Cavendish taking home another green jersey, dispelling the myth that he's too old and too slow, dispelling the myth that he hasn't got what it takes anymore. He sprinted to 4 victories alongside his Deceuninck Quick-Step team. He joins Eddy Merckx as one of the greatest cyclists on the planet, like he needed that record anyway. Leave your comments down below. There's a lot of opinion flying around at the minute of Mark Cavendish. A lot of people have gone off him a little bit, have turned their back on him after seeing his outburst with one of his mechanics.
Oh, Mike.
I know you when you're getting there.
Danemark, un ancien vainqueur de Liège, vainqueur de Liège, du Tour de Lombardie, double vainqueur du Critérium du Dauphiné, c'est Jakob Fuglsang.
Now I don't know how I feel about that one, because the fatigue that these riders must be feeling must be so intense. The pressure that he must be feeling must be so intense. And any small change in his preparation to going out, especially when he's capable of taking a stage victory on that stage, is enough to obviously make him react the way he did. Personally, I think that's just a sportsman wanting perfection and not receiving it. But on the other hand, you've also got to think these guys deserve the respect, because while I'm sleeping, they're working on my bike. And maybe they just missed something. Maybe they got something wrong this time. It's fine. You know, would he have kicked off at Morkov if he didn't lead him out perfectly, if he wasn't on the wheel that he was expecting to be on, if Morkov didn't accelerate? Because he's only got one job. You say the mechanic's only got one job, but Morkov's only got one job. And if he doesn't fulfill that potential, does Mark Cavendish have a go at him? Probably not. So, I mean, it was a bit of a dig move, but he did apologise for it, and hopefully that's not tarnished his 2021 Tour de France, because I think what it has been is nothing short of amazing. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think to Mark Cavendish equaling Eddy Merckx. Is it the same? Are they equals? 34 and 34? Or do we see slight differences between them in the way that they won their Tour de France's stage victories? Yeah. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. If you've disliked it for whatever reason, hit that dislike button, and I will see you on the next one.